just buy a Berkey, but you're totally confused on how to set it up, well, this is the video for you. I'm going to walk you through how to set up your brand new Berkey water filter. My name is Mallory and welcome to my channel. If this is the first time you're here, I am so excited to share with you guys how to set it up. I know it can be a little confusing when you first see all the parts. There's a lot of parts that go together, but once you know how to do it, it's going to be super easy for you. So make sure to subscribe and let's get started with the video. When you first get your Berkey, everything is going to be broken down. So let me go over all the pieces. So you're going to have your bottom drum, which is where the filtered water will go. This is the top drum, and so this is where the black filters will go, which I will show you. These are the black filters. These are the main Berkey filters that come with every Berkey system. These are the fluoride and arsenic filters. Normally, a Berkey system does not come with them, but you can purchase them additionally. These are important to buy if you know that your water is fluoridated, and this will take out the fluoride. This is the top cap that goes on the top of the Berkey. There's a lot of small parts, so let me show you those. These white pieces are the plugs to the top of the Berkey. So there is a kind of like a screw, like a plastic screw part, and then a silicone washer that goes right there. And then you'll have another silicone washer that will go on the opposite side, which I'll show you. And then you have a plastic nut that will go there. So you'll have two sets of those plugs. The top drum has 4 holes, but only 2 holes will be taken up with your black filters. So the other 2 holes will need to be plugged up. Also on each black filter, it will have a silicone washer, which will go on that side, and then a plastic nut, which will go on the opposite side when you screw it in. Every Berkey also comes with a plastic spigot. However, some people do not want to use plastic. That's kind of the whole point of getting a Berkey, is they're metal. And so you can purchase an additional metal spigot, which is what I have. And that just eliminates less plastic in your device. So I'll show you, since mine is already attached, you can see that there is a silicone washer on the outside of the spigot. So that's to make sure it's secure on the outside. And then on the inside, there's another silicone washer that touches the drum, and then a metal piece, and then a metal nut. And it's very, very important that you have it very tight, otherwise water will drip out. A few other random pieces that you might see, that you will see in your Berkey, and you might be a little confused about, are this blue thing, which is for priming your filters. And I'm actually going to show you an easier way to prime your filters than using this thing or this thing, which is like an O-ring. I recommend going with an additional priming pump. So this is something that you can purchase from Berkey, and it makes the job so much easier for priming your pumps, because not only will you have to prime them, which I will show you in a minute, when you first get your Berkey, you will have to prime them every so often to keep the water flowing at a good rate. So I highly recommend this priming pump, and I will show you how to use it. Also, Berkey is now including with their sets red dye. I know it looks black, but it's actually red dye. And the reason they include red dye in the set, you can also use your own. I actually just use this. This is just normal red dye from the store. The reason they include red dye is because you need to do a red dye test after it's all set up, because if your filter is set up correctly, you put red dye in the top of the drum and the water should be completely clear when it filters out. That way you know your Berkey is working properly. So this is the box that your black filters will come in, and this actually it's a lot of words, but if you're very interested in exactly what your filters are filtering out, this is everything. It's also on their website. In my first video I did about Berkey, which you can find up in the cards, I explained a little bit about why it's important to filter out these things, but if you already have a Berkey, it's obviously important to you. Okay, so when you first get your Berkey and when you're cleaning your Berkey, which I suggest doing monthly because, you know, water will sit in here and you want to get, you know, grime and stuff off. You want to wash the metal parts with soap and water. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to actually set up the Berkey. You'll also follow these steps when you clean it, which I suggest doing monthly just to keep it fresh and clean. So you'll need 2 sponges. One can just be any normal sponge to clean the insides of the Berkey, the metal parts, with soap and water. The second sponge needs to be a sponge that has a little bit of a rough edge. Don't use a Brillo pad, don't use steel wool. That will damage the black filter because this is going to be for the black filters. And what you're going to do is you're going to gently scrub the black filter with your rough edge. You do not want to use soap. Don't ever put soap on the black filter. With your fluoride filters, when you're cleaning your Berkey like monthly, you can just rinse them under the water. Don't use soap. Okay, so now we're going to clean our drums. And it's, even though you're getting it, it's brand new. It might seem clean, but you still want to clean your brand new Berkey because you just want to make sure it's hygienic and anything that it picked up via manufacturing or shipping, you want to clean that out. Also, when you initially clean it out, you probably will not have the spigot on it yet, so there'll just be a hole there, and you'll just, you know, wash around the hole. And then I would also wash the outside of the spigot as well. And then once you have it on the Berkey, run some hot water through the spigot just to clean that out. We can go like this, just run some hot water through it. Make sure you get all the soap out because this part will be the part that has the purified water, so you don't want to keep dripping soap. Then you'll also have this silicone part or rubber part, and that'll go on the bottom so that wherever you're placing your Berkey, it can be secure and not wiggle around. Now it is time to wash the Berkey. Remember, no soap. Take your non-soapy sponge and just gently rub your filter on all the sides and on the bottom. Okay, do that to both. I also recommend washing with soap all the little pieces, so the washers and the nuts, the bolts that plug up the holes. Wash all of those. You can use soap. So to prime your filters, you're going to need a large receptacle to fill up with water, and so I just use the bottom part of the Berkey. Make sure the spigot is closed, so this, when it's facing forward, that means it's open, and when it's at a right angle, that means it's closed. So I just fill it up with cold water, and you'll want to fill it almost all the way to the top. The priming pump will come in all these different pieces. So you'll have your balloon, you'll have 2 of these parts that will go on each end. And then you'll have 2 hoses that go on each end. And then you'll have this black piece on one end that has, that will screw onto the filter. And then you'll have this L-shaped device on the other end. So you're going to take your black filter and you're going to screw this part onto the black filter. I like to take the balloon off when I do this, just so it's not flapping around. And you just screw it on like a screw. Okay, and then, all right, so this is full enough. You want the water to be covering the entirety of the filter. And then you can insert the other end. And so what you're going to do, this is going to make sure that the water is flowing through the filter so that it can actually filter your water. So this is why this is so easy. So basically you're just squeezing the ball or the pump, and this is the longest part of everything, because you just It might take you 10-15 minutes to do this part, especially if your filters are brand new. And so basically you're just squeezing it and you're waiting for water to come up through the filter. Okay, so now you can see that there's water coming and it's kind of filling up in the ball. And then it starts coming out through the other end. Now you might be wondering, okay, how do I know that it's primed enough? What you want to do after you've done that for a little while, you're going to lift your filter out of the water. I like to watch for water to appear on the outside of the filter. So if you can see those little droplets that are forming on the filter, notice that it's only like halfway. So that means I need to prime for longer, because you want to get it as close to the top as possible. You want this whole thing to be beating out water, because that means you're going to have the most efficient filtration. And if there's ever a point, and this happens to me, where it seems like your Berkey is just filtering really slow, you fill it up and you check it hours later and it's just not, it doesn't seem to be going as fast as it used to, then it probably needs to be primed. Another thing I wanted to mention while we're doing this long process is that let's say you're going on vacation and you're going to be gone for a week or two and you're not taking your Berkey with you. You can take it on a road trip if you would like, but if you just want to leave it, you can leave the black filters out to dry and they can stay that way indefinitely. Also, the black filters will last quite a while depending on how hard your water is, what exactly you're doing with it. The filters can last a few years. Now, if you're taking it out and you're using it like an emergency situation and maybe you're putting pond water in and you're filtering really dirty water, then the filters won't last as long in that situation. Or maybe if you have very hard water. But on average, they last a few years. So that's nice that you don't have to buy them very frequently. So that's getting pretty close to the top. Probably took me about 15 minutes. It might take you, longer or shorter. Okay, so that's a very, very important step, is to prime your black filters. If you did not buy the priming pump and you don't want to buy it or wait for it to come in, you can use this blue primer that comes with the Berkey. You'll take the black filter and you'll put the screw end through this hole, and then you'll hold it on there and you'll put it onto your sink faucet. And then you'll just run the water through it until it has the beads like you saw with the priming pump. All right, now it is time to actually assemble your Berkey now that everything is squeaky clean. So first we're gonna put in the black filters. So take your one black filter and one silicone washer and put the washer on like that. Then take your Berkey and pick a hole, doesn't matter at this point which one, and you're going to stick it through the hole. So now, holding the filter, kind of balancing it with one hand, and then you'll take your plastic nut with your other hand, like with your non-dominant hand. Then you're just going to screw it on. The key here is to make sure that the Berkey is, the black filter is standing upright. And you're just going to screw it on until it's pretty tight. And then you will do the exact same thing with the second filter. You'll put the washer on. Now with this one, you want to pick the hole that is opposite the first filter, okay? So I'm gonna stick it in this opposite hole. So they're like that, if that makes sense. So now I'm gonna take my washer and tighten it and tighten it. can check it as you tighten it to make sure it's standing upright. Now here, I kind of want to show you guys a little mistake I made. The first one I put in is not quite, it must not be quite, you know, even on there, because you can see how it's like almost touching that drum. So I'm going to readjust it. All right, so now both of your black filters are in there, secure. And now you'll notice those two holes. So if we leave that open, then water is just going to come right through and not get filtered. So that's where these white plugs come into play. So you have your white screw and then a silicone washer. So you're going to put one washer onto the screw and you're going to turn it upside down, and it's going to go, the end of the screw is going to go on the bottom. So these things will be sticking out and this will be on the bottom. And then you're going to take another washer and the nut, plastic nut, and that's going to go on the inside. So first you're going to put the washer on the silicone piece, and you're just going to, it has those ridges on it, so you just want to make sure you slide it over all of the ridges. Okay, so you see the silicone washer is on there, so now I'm going to screw in the nuts. It's a little bit of a balancing act here. All right, so just hand tight. You know, you want it to be tight so that water does not leak through. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other hole. So again, put the washer on the screw onto the very end, stick it in the opposite, the remaining hole. Take your remaining washer, stick it on there. Do it with my other hand. All right. And then here's your nut, and you're going to screw it on. I know it seems a little bit complicated at first, but after you do it several times, it's going to be a piece of cake. All right. So now you have your completed upper drum with the two black filters and the two plugs. And here's what the bottom looks like. Alrighty. So at this point, if you are initially setting up your Berkey, this is where you would do your red dye test. Okay, so you're gonna want to get out your manual that comes with your Berkey. It's quite extensive, but on page 9, the headline will say testing the black Berkey purification elements, and it has very detailed instructions on how to do the red dye test. But basically you're going to be putting red dye. How much red dye you put in depends on how big your Berkey is. Okay, so this is the big Berkey. It holds 2 1/4 gallons, but you might have a bigger Berkey. So just follow the instructions on exactly how much red dye to use. So when you do the red dye test, you're going to want to get 2 glasses that it sits on, because you want to test each filter independently. And so it'll just sit like that, and then you will pour the red dye water into the top. So it'll be 1 teaspoon per gallon of water that this can hold. And you will look to see if the water is clear or not. If it's not clear, it should be clear, but if it's not, then there is some kind of problem going on. Maybe you have a leak. In rare cases, the filter could be defective. So you want to do some troubleshooting. You want to make sure that everything's really tight and redo it again. And if it still isn't working, then you'll want to contact Berkey to see if there's a problem that you can't fix, and they may need to rectify the problem. If you have only purchased black filters, then at this point you can fill it up. However, if you have the fluoride filters, which I think most people that buy a Berkey buy fluoride because they don't want fluoride in their water. I'm sorry, but they buy the fluoride filters because they have fluoride in their water and they don't want to drink it. Okay, so you will have taken them out of the package. You can rinse them off. You're going to, the fluoride filters are going to go on the bottom. So they're going to go in the part where the filtered water is. So the fluoride filters will go where the black filters are. This is a really, really important point. you don't want to screw them on more than 8 rotations, because if you screw it too tightly, it will mess up the filters. So you can take something like a Post-it note, a little, you know, something that you can stick on to the filter so you can keep track of how many rotations you've done. So I just stick it on there like that and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And see, it actually kind of stopped me before I even got to 8. So you don't want to force it. So if it kind of stops you right before 8, that's fine. And then you'll do the same thing with the other one. That one's a little looser, but again, don't go past 8. All right, so your filter is now complete, and you can put the top part onto the bottom part. And see, they have Berkey, so I just kind of like to line it up there. You can use, you know, like on the outside, like a spray cleaner, like all-purpose cleaner, and a rag if you want to kind of shine it up, get the water spots off. That's just personal preference. And then you have your top, which goes right on the top like that. All right, so where to put your Berkey? It's totally up to you. If you have young kids, you probably want to have it up high so they're not, you know, playing with the spigot. Berkey does sell a stand that's like a round stand, and it just goes right into it. You can just get like a metal or a wooden stand from the store. This was like $15, and you basically, or you could just put it on your counter and have the spigot hanging off. That's the biggest thing. You want the spigot hanging off, and you want clearance so that if you're filling up a big pot, you have room for that pot. Also, for filling up your Berkey, well, first of all, if you have one of those fancy sinks where it extends and you can reach the top of your Berkey, that is like the ideal situation. So you can just fill it up right from your tap. But if you don't have that, you can just keep a measuring cup. This is like 2 cups or something near your Berkey, and you can fill it up that way. So that's super simple. I'll just keep it under there so I can fill it up whenever I need to. All right, so now I'm gonna fill up my Berkey. However, another point I wanna make is that you want to make sure that you don't put more water up top than can hold on the bottom. So this is how I like to do it. I will fill it to the very top. The water will be covering the black filters, the top of the black filters, okay? I don't refill it. I don't refill the top until there's almost no water left. So if you're coming to the end of your filtered water and you want to get the last bit out, all you have to do, you can just tilt your Berkey and open it up. Make sure to close it, because I've made this mistake before and others have as well, where they leave it open because nothing's coming out because it's almost empty, and then when you refill it, you forget, and then it goes all over the place. So don't do that. Only refill however much can fit on the bottom. That's really crucial, because otherwise it'll start leaking and you'll be wondering what's happening. Okay, see how I've just covered the top? All right, and I'll put my lid on the top. And that's it. Now you just have to wait for it to filter. A frequently asked question is how long it might take to filter. One, it'll depend on how hard your water is, so how hard the black filters have to work. It'll also depend how big your Berkey is. I would say, especially after they've been freshly primed. I've never really timed it, but within half an hour to an hour, you can start getting water out. You know, it won't be fully filtered, but you can at least start getting some water out. So to me, the best like schedule to get in is if you fill it at night before you go to bed. And then when you wake up in the morning, you have a full drum full of water, and then you have water all day. And what I mean by fully filtered is you have the bottom drum is fully filled up with filtered water. So the bottom, remember the bottom part will be your clean filtered water. All right, so that is it. So now your Berkey is working perfectly and you're having very pure water in your house at this point. So just to go over everything that we did, so you want to lay out all your parts, take it all out of the box, and make sure you have everything. And probably you would want to watch this video before you put it together, just so you know exactly what you're doing. That'll just give you kind of a primer on what to do. And then you'll want to wash all of the pieces. Remember not to put soap on the black filters or the fluoride filters, just water. And after everything's clean, so first you'll put the black filters on, and then you will plug up the other two holes that remain. And then before you put the fluoride filters on, you'll want to do that red dye test like I showed, because you don't want to put the red dye through the fluoride filters. Once you have cleared yourself, after the water is clear, then you can put the fluoride filters on. And of course, if you're watching this video, like you already have your Berkey, but maybe you're just doing a monthly cleaning, you don't need to do the red dye test every month. It's not necessary. So in that case, you would just put the black filters on, put the fluoride filters on. It really is, like I said, once you do it a few times, it doesn't really feel as hard as it used to. Just have to keep track of all the pieces. I make mistakes sometimes too, like forgetting to put a washer on or whatever, but it's not a huge deal, and you just will learn the more you do it. Again, I mentioned the Berkey Insiders Facebook group. They actually have modules, like learning units on there with tips, even more tips than I can offer in this video, on how to care for your Berkey and just like troubleshooting tips. Maybe there's something going wrong with your Berkey that I didn't address. You can watch those units, and then you can also post in the Facebook group. I've done that before too, with a question, like I couldn't figure something out, and so I posted in that group. And Berkey itself, it's not just like random people in there, it's actually Berkey that runs the Facebook group, and so they will respond to you most likely when you have a question. So, and then other people will respond with their own advice as well. So I hope you guys join that group, because it's really, really useful. And maybe you haven't purchased a Berkey yet, but you're just watching this video because you're maybe interested in getting one. I do have an affiliate link below to purchase a Berkey, and I really appreciate your business if you do choose to buy through me. When you buy through an affiliate, you're supporting a small business, and that is greatly appreciated. It doesn't change the price for you. And I would be happy to offer you any support if you buy through me. Feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. I really want to support my customers. So again, if you have any other questions, leave them below. Give this video a thumbs up, add it to your library so you can go reference it again and again if you need help. And I will see you guys in the next video.